God damn.
Well,
Hey, everyone.
It's beating off without any payoff. That's what it is.
That's true. Welcome to Masculine Geek Episode 8. We have a few topics to discuss, a few pieces of show and tell. And we also I'm going to back it up a little bit. We were talking about 80s movies. Do you want to go back into that discussion a little bit? Because that was pretty good.
Okay, yeah, I think the one that really comes to mind is Better Off Dead. It was one of John Cusack's earliest films. And as the title would imply, for those of you who haven't seen it, he's this big ski fan. He's in high school. He's dating this girl. She dumps him for a guy whose name is Stalin, who's also a high school student, and he's a better skier. And so the running joke in the film is he's trying to find ways to kill himself, and he's failing. And I was thinking when I was watching this film recently that there's no way this film could be made today because there's so much. And when we say politically correct, we think of different types of things that are inappropriate, but they're making it a lighthearted film about suicide. And it was based off.
Jeez.
And man, I can so go there.
It was based off of the director whose high school sweetheart dumped him, and so he was getting really. I don't think he was getting suicidal, but he was getting depressed. So he made these homemade videos to try to deal with it. He showed it to his buddies, and they all thought it was hilarious. So he was borderline struggling with whether he wanted to keep living. Does a bunch of videos about it, shows it to his friends, and they're all howling. So he finally it would be kind of a great film.
Yeah,
but nowadays they would say it's insensitive. It might actually encourage people to do stuff. And now, to be fair,
people would lose their shit. And that's what we were talking about. Is that the 80s movies for the most part were not politically correct because there were no politics involved.
Right. But
is that the same film that had the kid on the bicycle? $2.
Yes.
I want my $2.
Yes.
I did not see that movie. I'm gonna have to check it out.
I wanted to make sure that was the one. I wasn't thinking of something else.
Now, to be fair, at the time the film came out, they had a line that went with the film. I think it was the advertising that said, "Sometimes you're better off dead." They changed it to "Relax, you're never better off dead." So I think
they softened the blow.
But I mean,
they should have stuck with the original, because sometimes, guess what? You are better off dead. Christ.
Well, if you're in constant pain every day, then physical pain, then maybe.
Well, for some of these snowflakes out there, they're always at least in some form of fucking mental pain. So maybe they're better off dead. Think about it.
Damn, you're so harsh. God.
What's funny?
Jesus Christ!
Do you remember that
God
scene
damn, Rob.
where he jumps off? Oh, there's so many great lines in that film. My favorite is with the guy who's wearing the big top hat, and they're in the grocery store, and he goes, "Lane," or no, he's in high school class. He goes, "Lane, I've been going to this high school for 7.5 years. I'm no dummy."
That's what's great about 80s movies.
The high school stuff.
Well, many of them still hold up well now, and the one-liners, like take Ghostbusters for instance, that came out in 83, maybe 85, but the whole movie is nothing but one-liners. You could, and I not to have it all memorized, but close to it. But it's just amazing. Even going up into the beginning,
turned him into a dog.
The mid 90s, yes.
I've worked in the private sector.
Don't you guys dare mention
results.
Don't mention. We're not going to talk about the remake. No, don't mention it. Just stick with the 80s.
Oh,
yes. Yeah, the 80s. Yeah. What did you do, Ray?
Well, see, this is what. So going back to Better Off Dead, the funny thing is also that was a big high school. You had almost kind of Back to the Future was a high school. It was about a high school. There was a lot of films about high schoolers.
There were, great coming of age films. That ritual.
You had the Breakfast Club. You had Better Off
Pump
Dead.
Up the Volume.
Yeah.
You had I never saw the film. It was Footloose with Kevin Bacon.
Oh, Kevin Bacon.
You never fucking saw Footloose?
To be fair though, and I have not either. I've heard of it, but I have not seen it either.
Shit.
I know what I'm doing this weekend.
Under a rock up in the Cascades or what?
I gotta watch.
Holy fuck me!
This weekend I gotta watch fucking Footloose and Better Off Dead.
Oh, he's saying
Christ. Well, no wonder, TJ. That explains everything about why you are the way you are. You haven't seen fucking Footloose.
We have in the chat. In the chat, someone commented.
Oh yeah, 12 o'clock high. There's that one. Okay, hey, and if we want to back it up to the late 70s, let's not forget Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Now, there's a motherfucking movie.
That's true.
Yeah, there's your unpolitically correct movie there. That's the one. That one and the John Belushi film, shit, what was
1941?
Animal House. Animal House.
Yeah, the Animal House.
There's some good films.
We'll stray if we talk about that one, but man, you talk about a politically correct film, and I mean, even
incorrect.
Politically incorrect, yeah. And I would say, I mean, even back then, if we were going to apply standards of then, I think it was, there was some stuff in there. But anyways, with the 80s films, I think the other thing is that there was still that optimism. There was this upbeat. I mean, with Back to the Future, you watch that film. That's a very optimistic film. It's a very good. It embodies a lot of classical Hollywood stuff from the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Plus, we have flying cars at the end.
Right, we got flying cars. There's nothing bad about that.
The hat tip to the Jetsons.
Right,
That's
and
true.
then. But then you look at, say, Better Off Dead, and even with Better Off Dead, it sounds on the surface. I remember hearing about the film at a buddy's house when he put it in. He goes, "Oh, it's a film about a guy who wants to kill himself, and he never does." And I'm like, that doesn't sound like a comedy to me. But then you watch
comedic.
Yeah,
black comedy.
How can it not be?
Oh yeah. Revenge of the Nerds. There's another one. Yep.
Revenge of the Nerds.
That was a high school one. The original, the first Revenge of the Nerds. The rest of them were shit. That's a good one. Thanks, Aquanaut, man. We appreciate it. Yeah, you know what's up.
No, yeah.
You're probably an 80s. You're probably a child in the 80s.
Oh, god damn. The memories.
But I think also, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said that the 80s, there was one year in the 80s that had the greatest number of great films in one year. And I think the thing about the 80s is that you had this interesting blend of free speech where people could just say whatever, it wasn't a question of whether it was going to be allowed legally. It was a question of whether it was, people would get outraged because of moral reasons or something like that. But it was that you were allowed to go there if you wanted to. It's just how much flack do you want to take from people who are going to criticize?
Well, it was how far could you go?
Right. And
how far could you push the envelope before people went, whoa, dude, you're kind of going out there a little bit now.
And I think, but at the same time, I think the films, I don't recall a single film that you finished watching and you felt really that gut fit. I mean, with the 70s films and some of the late 60s films, they were about they had that pessimistic note about them. They were not uplift. I mean, you had what was it, Network, or you had whatever. A lot of the 70s films was it was depressing. I mean, even I'd say with the Rocky film, the first Rocky film, that was in the 70s. That was kind of a depressing film to watch because you see how pathetic some of the people are. I mean, I know he wins in the end, but he's a loser who wins in the end, or who doesn't even win, but he's just still upset. But you look at him living in the ghetto and all that other stuff and how dysfunctional.
But he overcame it.
I know.
He overcame the ghetto, man.
No, Adrian.
I did it.
But you look at his.
That was horrible. Come on, you got to work what? Fuck, it's horrible. God damn.
Oh man.
What about my prime, Mick?
No.
My prime.
No, you got to work on that.
You got to get the chicken, Rock. You got to get the chicken. You got to be greased lightning.
You almost have Burgess Meredith down. That's close. You got the inflection correct.
I could do some pretty good voice impersonations.
That was not bad.
Manager. But the other thing about even with, I think Rambo came out in the 80s.
It did.
Yeah, mid 80s.
I know that. But the second one, you had the second one come out. I think the second Rambo film is classic 80s. Just shoot them up. Oh, and then you had Commando. You had all those Schwarzenegger films. You had.
Hey, don't forget Predator.
Oh,
Terminator, Predator.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now you guys better not shit on one of my favorite movies here. You just, I'm warning you, because I will get on a fucking airplane.
I need your boots.
I'll be kicking down some doors here.
I need your boots, your jacket, and your bike.
Your clothes.
No. Hey, but that's actually from Terminator 2, which came out in the 90s.
Yeah, that one is. That was 92.
Now, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Your clothes, give them to me.
I'm close.
That was the original Terminator.
Oh. Hey, what's wrong with this picture?
Well, and of course, you can't forget the all-time classic line, I'll be back.
That's just
that's my favorite. My favorite. No, he's in the. Now, this was kind of crazy. He goes and you have to keep in mind, this is a film that's being the Terminator film takes place.
What year did Total Recall come out?
Yeah, Running Man and Total Recall. That was also the 90s.
That was like early 90s.
You have to remember, Terminator takes place in LA.
Right.
He goes into a gun shop, and the guy's selling guns, and he goes, "This shotgun's Italian. You can go pump or auto." And then he goes and shows him this pistol with a laser, and then he shows him the Uzi automatic. So this is LA.
Yeah, LA pre-Snowflake.
Yeah, and so what's crazy about this, and then of course he goes, "Plays phase plasma rifle."
It was a phase plasma and 40-watt range. Yeah, just what you see here.
And he goes, "Oh, wait, which one's it going to be?" All. I might close early today.
I think I'm going to close early. Hey, you can't do that. Wrong.
And then Commando, which was probably the stupidest film. This most fun, stupidest film I've ever seen because it's so absurd. And he's quoting Terminator lines.
He's quoting himself.
Yeah, he's quoting himself. And then, of course, a guy who's slightly unfit and overweight is calling him, Schwarzenegger, an old man, which is just...
I know. What do you guys think of the Expendables, the new one, the new?
I think
the new movies.
I haven't seen it.
The first one was pretty good. The second one was also good. I have not seen the third one, but I think
there's a third one.
There's a third one, yeah.
Oh shit! I did not know that. Okay.
Now the thing is, you have to understand when you're watching these films, they're tribute to 80s films, and so there's a lot of cheesiness to them. And I think the first one though is probably, if I was going to show either one. Second one, I think they completely underutilized Chuck Norris because he didn't roundhouse kick someone in the face. Never happened.
That's hard. That's like his signature.
Right. And so, I mean, they get him.
But dude, he's Chuck Norris. He can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, there's that.
They say, "Hey, Chuck, didn't you get bit by a cobra?" And he goes, "Yeah. After 3 days of pain and suffering, the cobra died."
Cobra died.
Hey, not to change it, but since you're making all these 80 references and 80 lines, Vince, I was telling you about this a week or so ago when we were talking. You got to see Ready Player One.
Oh, yes.
That movie.
I think I'm going to do that this weekend.
TJ, you need to see it too, because where you've seen quite a bit of 80s movies and you've got this, you know what, TJ, I've realized something about you, buddy. We need to put you on Jeopardy because you have this, you're like this walking fucking encyclopedia of useless knowledge that we could win cash and prizes with, man. No, I'm not saying that to be disparaging. I'm saying it because we got like he's our ringer, Vince. We could go in and it's kind of like Revenge of the Nerds. I'll be Booger. You could be, what the fuck? And we'll have TJ be, he's our ringer. It's like, we'll bring him out. He's unassuming. They'll be like, he's a kid. He's like a Wormser. He's a little kid, but he's a fucking genius. He's a walking encyclopedia of 80s shit that everyone's going to look at TJ and be like, this guy doesn't know 80s. He wasn't even an itch in his daddy's pants in the 80s.
TJ's Rain Man.
Yeah, he was barely a gleam in his mama's eye. How the fuck would he know about 80s until he just opens up his mouth and goes? Okay, and everyone just goes, fuck, because he just wins. Okay, he'll just go straight to the bottom. I'll take 80s trivia for 1,000, Alex. And Alex will look at him and go, are you sure? Well, and he's like, bring it. And TJ will just go. But TJ, if you have not seen Ready Player One, you have to see it because you will appreciate it. Because theoretically, as much as you hate it, you're technically a millennial. You'll love this film because it caters on the surface to the millennial audience. But really, truly, it is a hat tip to the Gen Xers. And you, my friend, will get it. You will love it. You need to see it. So
I'll have to check it out. Funny is people say, I've never liked the millennial label, not because I completely disavow everything that's millennial, but it really has to do with the fact that there is actually a schism or a split in what they define millennials to be, because there are millennials like me who grew up for a long time, I mean, we're talking in past 5th grade, where we had no internet at our house. It was perfectly normal for most households to have at best a 14.4K, 56K modem. It was it was dial up.
Yep. And AOL online.
So it was for your parents to use, and you, at least in my household, you couldn't use it except under certain circumstances and certain times, because of, you know, if you're expecting to call, you can't use the internet.
Well, that ties up the phone line.
Right. But then you had kids who were born after a certain age, I'd say in the mid 90s, millennials, but this is all they've ever known. They've only known an age when there's your house had DSL, so you didn't have to do that, and everything has always been the internet. And moreover, I think this particularly, you cannot lump, or not you, but they cannot lump me in with a generation that has never known what it's like to go without a cell phone, or to have to be able to have this kind of access to the internet. I mean, one second, I gotta turn some off. I mean, I was working on library card catalog, like I was working on library card stuff.
Careful, TJ. You're gonna start sounding like my dad in a minute here. Back when I was in school, we had to walk uphill both ways in snow 5 feet deep. Be careful.
Right.
I'm just heading into old man territory now.
We were learning stuff that was completely kids today, or not kids today, but
there it is.
Did you just say that?
Fucking talk, right?
Did you just say that? Kids today?
I think five kids, adults 5 years younger than me, or whatever. To them, their social interaction has been completely different in terms of how. And also, here's another thing that's interesting. I did not grow up really in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s, but it's almost like there was this delay effect where I consumed a lot of 80s stuff where they were doing reruns in the early 90s. So I grew up and also I grew up at the key sweet spot where I was 4 or 5 years old in the early 90s, but the early 90s were really. Yeah, I know.
Let's see. What was Vince and I doing? We were getting
in the early 90s. This is my mid 20s.
Yeah, same here.
But my point is that every decade, the early part of the decade is still sort of a what would you call it? A vestige of that previous decade. So
you get some bleed over, yeah,
you get some bleed over. So that's what I love about a lot of those turn of the decade films. For example, Die Hard 2. I know a lot of people do not like Die Hard 2. They don't think it was a great sequel to Die Hard, which also came out in the 80s. It was a great movie, but
it's a Christmas movie. I don't give a fuck what anyone says.
Exactly, including Bruce Willis. But it was a film that really had all the elements of the early 90s. You had a villain who was still concerned about communism and the spread of communism when the USSR had a couple months to live. You had his wife, giving him a hard time because he didn't like using fax machines, and she was talking about microchips and airplane phones as if they were some brilliant technology and all that stuff. And The Hunt for Red October is another great early 90s film that has all the 80s stuff in it, I thought. And so there's certain films that I consider to be 80s stuff that's genuinely 80s, but it came out in the early 90s, 91, because by 92 you really have the Cold War is officially over. The US,
well, at least only on paper.
Yeah, on paper, yeah.
On paper,
we're still fighting it in the occupied zone, like over here.
Yeah. Deep behind
communism is alive and well in Washington.
You're right. For those
News
of you
at 7.
For those of you who are listening and don't know, I'm actually not in the heart of Cascadia in the mountains.
Which is why you cannot see him.
Which is why you can't see me. I am in a underground resistance bunker in the occupied zone.
He's undercover.
Known as Seattle Metro.
Seattle Metro. Jeez.
So, but look at also all the great TV shows. I mean, kids TV shows, but also for adults. Not saying adult content, but just adult TV shows that came out in the 80s. I mean, in the 80s, you had all these, you had G.I. Joe, you had, I I don't think He-Man came out.
No, He-Man was in.
He-Man was out there. There's a really good documentary that features. I forget what it's on. Is it on Netflix? It's either Netflix or Amazon Prime. It's all about toys, and I think it's 6 episodes. And in one of the episodes, they talk about the rise of He-Man. Talk about politics. There's one gentleman in there. I want you to. I'm not going to give you too much information and spoil it. I want you to go in and listen to it, and listen to what one gentleman has to say about the rise of the female toy, and listen to what he has to say. And he's dismissed very quickly. They only linger on him a little bit, but he's dead on correct. Go and watch this. It's documentary on toys, and there's like I said, there's 6 segments. There's 6 episodes, and each one focuses on a certain toy product, and one of them was He-Man. Go watch that.
Yeah, I think.
Speaking of He-Man, I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid and I bought the He-Man action figures and all that, they all came with a little kind of mini comic book.
Yes.
Now, here's the thing: taking that little mini comic book, comparing it to the cartoon that came out on the television. The comic book, all of the characters were badass, bloodthirsty barbarian types. Right. I mean, Skeletor was a holy terror. He-Man was a true badass. And then, all of these guys were just brutal.
Conan
and then,
the Barbarian.
Yeah. And then the cartoon comes out and you get this moralistic, wishy-washy bullshit. And you get that fucking cat Cringer, and you get Orko or whatever the fuck his name was, that little goofball wizard dude
who
Orko. Wasn't even a character originally. No. They only created that action figure after the cartoon came out. And like I said, Cringer was like Clark Kent. He was a sniveler until he turned into Battle Cat. And He-Man was kind of like Clark Kent. He was mild-mannered till he turned into He-Man. But you go back to those original comics,
haircut.
And but you go back to those original comic books that came with the action figures. They were like unholy terrors. All of them were just hardcore.
It was that little comic was a lot darker.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Which is why I got into it.
That's also the time when The Dark Knight by Frank Miller came out, where he really went away from the Adam West cartoonish, campy 1960s.
Yeah, the slapstick.
Yeah, and I forgot completely another film that came out in the 80s, of which there can only be one. The Highlander.
The Highlander, yeah.
They should have stopped with that one too. Good God, there should only have been one.
Yeah.
I don't know what everybody. I mean, I watched it. It was okay in my book. It wasn't great, and yet they made like 18 fucking sequels to it or something like that.
That second one
should have stopped. We should have stopped with the first.
That second one was a complete piece of shit.
And they kept going.
It's a film where a buddy of mine will have a game where you take a shot every time they say there can only be one. But
do that with Game of Thrones when they say the word bastard.
Well, no, I'm just saying in the 80s you had these films that even if they were stupid, they were still fun to watch. Commando is an incredibly stupid film. It's a stupid film. Now, Predator started out as a stupid film and then got or at least that's what it was pretending to be like.
Yeah, and then it got interesting.
Right. And so I would say that what was the other thing that came out in the 80s? I mean, you had the Empire Strikes Back, which is a great film. But to get to what you were saying about the whole the masculine, like He-Man stuff, I think that's part of what also was about the 80s. It was this age of almost masculinity where it was okay. You didn't have to have that stuff. You also had other films that came out that were not, or stuff that came out that was not pro-masculine, but it was an age when it was
16 Candles, Pretty in Pink.
Yeah, you could come out with a character who was over the top masculine and nobody would say anything about it or think anything of it. I think the 80s and maybe even in the 90s, but particularly in the 80s when you could do a lot of stuff that was there, it wasn't a question of whether you were going to get shut down or whether the production company was going to shut you down or whether you were going to get deplatformed or kicked off of stuff.
Oh, the advertisers are going to leave. Oh, no.
Right. People wouldn't complain to the advertisers maybe, but you would just get flack from like a parent group or something like that, or some moral coalition or something like that would get upset about stuff.
Mothers Against Dungeons and Dragons. Yes.
I never thought about that as
that was a bit of a thing. It really was. It didn't last long because it was completely bullshit.
I think the Generation Xers, and I'm speaking on behalf of maybe you guys, and I think I think I speak with confidence when I say this. It's the first generation that really is focused on childhood stuff as a holistic group, because baby boomers tend to focus on some stuff, but not nearly as much. It's because I know some Gen Xers who've really never they love the 80s just as a decade, because there's so much stuff. You've got the cool some of those kids cartoons were actually really intelligent for what they were doing. They were referencing Shakespeare, or they were referencing great movies, World War II movies, or things like that. And then you had the comic books, you had like guys like Frank Miller, you had great films that were coming out, and it almost seemed like it was reflected in it was a decade of optimism almost.
Yep. Well, it was.
And and that's why, I was talking about turn of the century film, or turn of the decade films, where they're almost belonging in another era. Mr. Mom, I don't think have you guys ever seen that one?
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
That I consider to be a 70s film in 1980. I consider it to be a 70s film because everything about it is 70s-ish.
It's content, yeah.
It comes out in the night. It takes place in the 1980 recession during the last, I think, year of Jimmy Carter, but everything about it is a 70s-ish film, because it's about a guy staying at home while his wife's out working, and it's got the 70s style of everything. It's just not the same type of film as a lot of the 80s.
So what you're saying is Michael Keaton caused the SJWs. Okay, we got to go have a talk with him.
Not quite.
It wasn't his fault.
Well, and the other thing is,
he's Batman, for fuck's sake. Come on.
Well, the other thing, that's another topic we can get to in a second. But I think the other thing is with I think I don't know how much of it was in the 80s, but in the 70s was really when the divorce rate started to go up like a rocket, or a V2 during World War II. And that's one of the things that was a little bit in the Mr. Mom film and others like that. I mean, like the movie Airplane or Airport. Sorry, not Airplane, which came out in the 80s. Great film. Airport was a definitively 70s film because it touches on all the different stuff that was going on in the 70s. Airplane was making fun of that, but was making fun of previous eras from an 80s perspective.
Yeah, looks like I picked the wrong time to give up sniffing glue.
What the heck of a bad time to quit taking methamphetamines.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a twister. It's a twister.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And stop calling me Shirley.
Stop calling me Shirley.
It's an entirely different kind of flying altogether. It's an entirely different kind of flying.
Oh, and when they could never remake that movie because, when the woman starts speaking jive, come on.
Or when, how many scenes in that film could never be done ever again?
Exactly. The snowflakes have lost their sense of humor completely.
Well, they've also killed. I don't know how much you guys follow or listen to Owen Benjamin, but he's a comedian who was making jokes about certain stuff and essentially lost his access to the comedy circuit. Like
he got deplatformed on Twitter and everything.
He said something about transgendered people or whatever.
Man.
And so he's now talking about on his live streams, along with other stuff, he's talking about how comedy's been killed by these people. Because with comedy, he made a very interesting point that I agree with. He says comedy is a way to present truth and not subtle, but just it's an effective way of presenting truth. Because what do comedians often do? They say things that you would not say in a serious way, but when you say it as a joke, people think it's funny. How many of the great comedians got up and said stuff that was incredibly edgy to say, but because they said it as a joke, it was funny?
George Carlin was great for that.
God, talk about a man way before his own time. Jeez.
Absolutely.
Who was it? Oh yeah, like for example, Chris Rock was doing. I mean, he's one of those comedians who's lived long enough to where he can't do the stuff that he used to do.
Nope.
And an example that I thought was crazy is when he was saying in front of an audience, "Man, you ever wonder why why your woman's always yelling at you and all that stuff?" He goes, "Do you want to know why that? Because you ain't her first choice."
Painful truth. That's why you have to laugh, because otherwise you want to just fucking cry.
I remember listening to that, and as a bachelor, I was just like, "Oh my gosh, can you imagine what it would be like to be in that audience?" And you're sitting next to your wife, and you're thinking, "We both know that's true. It's going to be an awkward car ride home."
Very awkward audience laughing.
They can't get mad, but a comedian allows you to tell a joke in a way that you can't get mad at them. That's what made, I think, a lot of the comedies in the 80s so great, is they could joke about stuff. And the other thing is that they said almost nobody should take themselves too seriously.
Well, that's it. That's entirely. And I think that's what we talked about several times here on a few episodes, is guys just be like the whole stoicism, which is good, but taking it a little too far, because we are binary. So we're on or we're off. And that middle ground is really important, not taking yourself too seriously. And this is TJ's bringing up a perfect example in comedy. You're seeing it now.
Wasn't it Quintus Curtius who recently tweeted out that you shouldn't take I mean, this is a guy who talks about stoicism, who writes Latin, who's an incredible writer and attorney. And he's a guy that I really respect and admire, and I would take seriously. But I think he filmed himself laughing.
I chuckled for days after that. That was great. Yeah, because he was talking. That was a reaction to one of the tweets that was going off of Michael Porfirio's, I think it's his name.
Yeah, the G-Man.
G-Man, the G-Manifesto. And that shit is just hysterical.
But few mention this.
It's complete. If you know this, this is a picture of me doing this.
Right. Another thing about the 80s is that I think it has what I consider to be a very important event, not just culturally, but economically, is you had the video game crash of 1983. And what happened is that all these video game companies pretty much just went bankrupt because of all these different problems in the industry. You had these third-party games that were poor quality, and they weren't approved by the gaming companies. And so it was oversaturation of the market. And then you had the ET game come out, which some people said it's not as bad as it is, but it ended up not selling well. And
it's a shit show.
It's bad.
Okay.
It's horrible.
No, and there's a reason why they all ended up in a landfill.
Yep. So they ended up in a landfill, and then you had a bunch of companies declare bankruptcy. Well, then you have Nintendo come in, and they understood immediately what the problem was with the industry. So they said, we're not going to make the same mistake. All third-party games have to have our seal of approval. It means that we've looked at the game and we said it matches what we expect of a video game. And they've never had a single video game crash ever since. There's never been a single. I understand, for example, Atari finally went the way of the dinosaurs and became a game developer or whatever they are now. And then there was Sega that I think went out. But we're not talking about an entire industry collapsing. Xbox is still there. Sony PlayStation is still there. You have Nintendo still there. And from what I understand, the companies are still doing well. You've had the market naturally limit the number of competitors in an industry. And there's not somebody, shoving people out. I don't think anybody's saying that there's a lack of options out there, but you had so many great games come out in the 80s. You had Duck Hunt, you had Super Mario, you had Super Mario Brothers 2 that came out. You had The Legend of Zelda. One of my personal favorites is Russian Attack, which was a clever play off the idea of Russian attack, but they just shortened it to Rush and Attack, as in Rush and Attack. And
nice play on words.
It had a really great theme song that I found a guitar riff of online. That's really cool. But yeah, you have all these great games that came out with Nintendo that people still play today. Maybe not as much as they used to, but the Metal Gear Solid, that was another, Metal Gear Ultra, or whatever, the first one that I have, which was another great game. So you have all
just Metal Gear.
Yeah, Metal Gear. There were so many great things that came out in the 80s that it's just a very good. It was a very good decade for people to look back and think retro. When you're thinking of retroactively or retro type stuff, especially a lot of the ugly Christmas sweaters, they also are based off of that 80s arcade font or whatever and computer stuff. What was that? There was that other movie. Ferris Bueller's Day Off was another.
Yeah.
That I think that film defined 80s and optimism. They're like, you're about to graduate from high school, and they're
even down to the music.
Even down to the music, and he's just knowing, we're going to go off, and we're probably going to go to college, and we're probably going to get married and have kids, and everything's going to be fine. And there was no angst in that film.
You're right.
Oh, I guess that's all I have to say about the 1980s.
That's all you got? Jesus. Like I said, we need to put you on Jeopardy, man, because you'll give them a run for their money. You know shit about the 80s that, in my opinion, you have no business knowing. It's like, how the fuck do you know this? You ain't old enough to know the 80s. You were shitting in diapers.
Yeah,
My God.
Well, but at the same time, for generations that grew up during that's a horrible way to put it. During less optimistic times, because as someone who grew up in the 90s and later on, I mean, I've since 8th grade, since I've been in 8th grade, this nation's been at war. It's been so there's that angst. There's so many things that have changed since then that for my generation, one of the reasons that we may have vicariously enjoy nostalgia that we never experienced is because we didn't grow up during a time. And I understand people will say, well, in the 80s, there was a Cold War. Yeah, but it's not really shown in 80s films.
Right.
It was you had détente in the early 80s, and then you had Reagan slightly escalating things by joking on Mike that he was going to go nuke the Russians.
Oh, you mean the evil empire?
Yeah, the evil empire. The culture wasn't anywhere near as toxic as it is now. And so people are looking back on, and I think people are also predisposed to be nostalgic, except for the 70s. I can't imagine anybody being, other than F is for Family, I can't think of a show that really wants to take place in the 70s. But that's because that's when Bill Burr grew up. And it's kind of, I think, based on his life a little bit. But with most of us, we're saying, yeah, during a time when things weren't completely out of hand in a lot of ways, we could go, even if you don't like the idea of smoking but back then you could smoke in an airport, you could smoke you
could smoke on an airplane.
Yeah, you could smoke on an airport. That's what I love watching some of these old films like Die Hard 2, where he's just smoking in an airport. You don't have to go through a pat down. You can go to the terminal to actually see people leave. You don't get to go watch them get in the gate and get manhandled by some overweight person that works for the TSA. And
what TSA? There was no TSA.
Right.
Yeah. And speaking of smoking, what are you smoking, Rob? Just real fast.
That is it's my continuation from last week. It is it's the Oliva Serie 5. It is a good cigar. It's one of the ones I intend to bring out and partake with you when we come out in September, October.
Okay.
It's one of my top end cigars that is one of my absolute favorites. The only thing I've had better than this so far has been Cubans.
Okay. Now, do you have, what kind of humidor do you have?
I don't have a humidor, actually. It's the boxes that they came in is what I've got.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, I'm still new enough to this that I know what a humidor is, but I haven't had the need to get one yet. But that is on the list down the road that I do intend to get one. I just have to figure out what do I want and how many do I want to store? Because right now I've only got, I don't know, like maybe 50 cigars.
Okay.
So You know, I've got a couple boxes that have about 20 each in them that are different brands, different sizes and all that, different flavors. And they're all good, but this one so far, other than Cubans, has been the best one I've had. So I think you'll like it, Vince.
Okay.
Same with you, TJ. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other thing in the 80s that came out that was good was a couple of the Bond films, but I don't know if I would say that they're definitively 80s either. There's certain Bond films that are very specifically that time period. I mean, Live and Let Die was a 70s film.
What year did For Your Eyes Only come out?
That came out in 81, and that, in my opinion, was one of the best Bond films. And
was that still Roger Moore?
Yeah, and the only thing, in my opinion, that hurt that film is Roger Moore, he did a good job in the film, don't get me wrong, but he is just too old. If you had a young Bond, if you had Sean Connery in his early 30s, that would have been without question the best film. But the problem is, it's just hard to see this guy as anything other than almost the Grandpa Bond.
Grandpa Bond.
He's mentor Bond.
He's G Bond.
Is the film Octopussy was also actually a good film. He's just really old in that film. I actually thought it was I really enjoyed the film, and I need to watch it again. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it's another one of those films that you watch it and you had fun, and then you walk away without this weird feeling in your gut, as opposed to watching, say, the recent Bond films, which have been almost deconstructing. I actually enjoyed Spectre, but at the same time, the films are almost asking if Bond is done. And what's funny is they just announced that the next Bond film will have Daniel Craig, and it'll be based off of the novel You Only Live Twice. Now, the novel has nothing to do with the Bond film that came out back in 1960s.
Daniel Craig is coming back again?
He's coming back for a final film. Because here's the thing. They were debating who to bring in, and the problem is they know that I think they learned from the last Social Justice Warrior Star Wars film that if you try to play politics with this series, you will kill it. You will absolutely. And almost I'm wondering if they've realized Bond is just an obsolete man. He is now an obsolete man. He has no purpose in the United Kingdom, because here's the question that I raised in my James Bond series podcast. Which would Bond really want to fight for Queen and country in this environment? The Bond that Ian Fleming wrote? Of course not.
Probably not.
He would be fighting.
He wouldn't get recruited. He's toxic masculinity in incarnate.
Right.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Right. And so they've almost realized James Bond really doesn't belong. So let's do this film and end it on that note. I'm almost this is coming from a guy who loves Bond, who's read all the original novels, who very much loves for what they've contributed in a lot of ways to our just culture and that. I hope that they just end the film. I hope that they do not continue making them, because it's
the end of the series.
It's almost akin to Michael Jordan trying to come back after retiring twice, and then he went to go play for the Washington Wizards or whatever.
Well, at that point, you can't take people seriously either. I mean, it's just like end the damn thing.
Here's my prediction: they'll end the film, and we'll sit there and go, "Please God, let it be done. Please God,
don't reboot that shit later."
And they will reboot it with a woman Bond.
They'll buy what
I heard rumor about
I heard that they were talking about let's make Bond a woman. Yay, feminism.
But you know
that you watch. You fucking watch. They'll reboot it. They'll go back to the Sean Connery, you know, we'll go all the way back to the original Bond movies, but we're gonna
what's amazing?
I don't
you know what?
They tried it with another, it was Agent Carter. It was from Peggy Carter from the films, the Captain America films. They tried doing that with her, and it just doesn't work. Like the women don't want to see women do that. They want to see the man.
Yeah. Well,
What did Vox Day say in his book? SJW is always lie. SJW is always double down. Okay, that's why you watch. They'll fucking reboot it and they'll cast a woman as Bond.
Then the issue that I have with that is I don't. Women in movies, fine. I like it. If you're good at what you do, then you fucking do it. Stop rebooting shit. Stop rebooting shit in general. Stop rebooting shit and shoehorning women into the roles that men were playing. Just come up with an original character and let us enjoy that.
Well, that's
good luck in getting originality when you consider most of the screenwriters, script writers, and all that. Who are they? No offense, but they're women.
Well, no offense taken.
But the other thing is,
they're not creators.
That's the thing is, and Vince really nailed it, is that it's not, it has nothing to do. People were having this big debate about the Star Wars, the Farce Awakens or whatever it was.
Yeah, pretty much.
And somebody was pointing out, we don't have a problem with how they cast stuff. The problem, but nobody watched Empire Strikes Back and looked at the what was his name? Williams, the guy who played Lando Calrissian.
Billy
D. Nobody looked at him and said that guy was hired just to make a political statement. They hired him because he was a good actor. I cannot imagine any other actor playing Lando Calrissian.
He's perfect.
He nailed it, I think, almost to his detriment career-wise, because nobody could see anything else. He just nailed it perfectly. But what they're doing now is they're
like Anthony Perkins in Psycho.
Right. They're putting the cart before the horse. They're cargo cultists. They don't understand what made something work so well in certain films. And it's the same thing with James Bond. If you want, that's why I think the film Black Panther actually did well, is because they were staying true to the original story. And I haven't seen the film. And then I also heard it was the same thing with Wonder Woman. They're staying true to the original character. They're not trying to make them, they're not trying to take something that was and turn it into something that it's not.
Exactly.
If you want to have a secret agent female spy, then just create one on your own. Don't take
exactly, and we'll enjoy it, for fuck's sake. God, yeah.
Right. Except the problem is you can't have a female version of Bond, because then it's just thinking, I don't know how. I mean, you can do that kind of stuff. You just have to understand the difference. It's almost as though they don't change they don't try to change the essence. They just swap out faces and names. And
it doesn't work. It's wooden, it's hollow, it's insincere. It's
right. And this isn't really germane, but I wanted to throw it out there. When Christopher Nolan did the film Dunkirk, people were giving him grief for not featuring certain types of people that were not at the battle at all, or certain types.
Wait, what? Really? People? Yeah. They wanted to shoehorn people that weren't there into a movie that's historically accurate.
Yeah, they went after. I mean, the same thing with. In fact, they went after who was it? Spike Lee, that one Psycho director. He went after Clint Eastwood for not having enough minorities in the film about Iwo Jima. I was like, how many of them were on the beach? It was Japanese versus most. First of all, you're also talking about a time when the military was segregated. So what do you want from us?
it's we live in fucking clown world with this shit. It's unbelievable.
Somebody made it. Somebody's making a comment. He says the movies currently out now promote independent lives for women or just plain feminism. Films I've watched called What Men Want and Isn't It Romantic? The theme here is women don't need men. Yeah, I don't think that ever was any theme that I could be wrong. I'm not thinking of the film, but I can't think of a single film in the 80s where that was the case.
No, it was like the old tired cliche that you hear. It was sex, drugs, and rock and roll, man. It was all about just having fun.
Well, think about the film Dirty Dancing that came out in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. Oh man, they'd have a fucking field day if they tried to like duplicate it, considering that Baby was underage in that fucking film.
And once again,
80s. You want to talk 80s real quick, real quick side note, because this goes to 1988, 89. I'm sure Vince, you'll know who I'm talking about. Maybe you do too, since you're the walking encyclopedia over there, TJ.
Encyclopedia
the
Brown.
band Winger. Yeah. They did a song that was their breakout hit. What was it called?
Cherry? No.
No, that's Warrant.
The Warrant. Okay, it's a W word. It's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I honestly, it may ring a bell once you say it.
17.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She's only 17.
Yeah.
17. Daddy says she's too young, but she's old enough for me.
You have a guitar?
You fucking did that song now, man. Because back then, everyone just was like, that's a catchy fucking tune. You do that song now, and it's pedophile. Yeah, that's fucking people lose their mind if Kip Winger tried to write that song today.
Well, that's really also how it helps you understand the Me Too movement about who they go after and who they don't. Because if Me Too, if you apply that, look at rock stars and you explain to me how I just let's not mince words. Most of them have probably been involved with I'm not talking about, she's 3 days away from her 18th birthday. How about 3 years away from it? And
she was 15.
Right. But the thing is, for those women, that was the pinnacle of their lives. That was for them the best man that they ever got.
They got the alpha of alphas, man. They got Gene fucking Simmons.
Right. And so, but whereas you see them going after other types of men where they were involved with, but it wasn't because they were attracted to them. It was for other reasons. And they are now regretting it because they weren't attracted to them at the time. And they're trying to rationalize why they did that. And now looking back, they can say, oh, I didn't consent. It was his fault. And it gives them an out to deny that. But with the 14-year-old and the rock star, they're not going to say that. They're going to say, this was the greatest,
they're going to own it. They're going to be like, hell yeah, I was with that guy. He had 8 inches down his pant leg. It's fucking real. Yeah, that's a badge of honor. I remember girls like that meeting, B-list rock stars and going, oh yeah, man, I was with that dude and blah, blah, blah. And they were not ashamed of it.
So, Bayot, I don't know if that's the way to pronounce his name, but he's saying remakes of masculine 80s films, the actors of now feature more effeminate, soylent men. Yeah, well, even with you had Chris Hemsworth in the remake Red Dawn, but it was a crappy film because they were originally going to do don't see it. Don't see it.
Not waste of time.
What one?
So Red Dawn, they made a remake of it back in I think 2012.
Well, that's their first mistake. They got to stop doing that. Just stop.
But the thing is, they could. But the thing is, if you're going to do a remake, you can do it. Just don't try to do the exact same film. You take the same concepts and you say, okay, how would this film look like in the year 2009, 2011, whenever the film came out? The problem is that they tried to do not the exact same film, but they tried to do that film, and they made it even less serious than the original film. And it's set in Spokane, which is it's in my state. But the problem is they have it where originally it was going to be the Chinese that invaded, but then they switched it over to the North Koreans. I'm like, these guys cannot move their army 5 inches, let alone 5,000 miles. The idea that these people are going to invade. So you're watching the film, and it also has it has an incoherent plot. It's not well paced. The film doesn't say anything. Whereas the original film had a lot of it was a film that even the director, John Millis, was saying, I wanted Americans to see what a war would look like on their own soil. And I think he did a very good job of showing that in a sense and saying, here's what a loss of your freedoms would look like. And people would walk away from that, I would think at the time, and say, I really need to take the freedoms I have right now for granted, where my government's not going to round me up and shoot me. I can express freedom of speech. I can express freedom of religion. I don't have to hide my radio in some place because I might get shot. We have guns, whereas all the guns are confiscated, and we're not going to get shot for retaliatory raids. There's no there's no warfare going on our continent and all that other stuff. Whereas the new film didn't do that at all. But that's another thing that they're doing, is they're doing remakes because they almost want people to forget the original film.
Ah, they're erasing history.
Yeah,
let's rewrite it. Let's redo it. One movie that I will say, and it's neither an 80s
take a drink,
movie.
Rob. Take a drink.
I will in a second. I gotta go there. I gotta go there. There was one remake that I did watch that I was kind of like, I started off going, oh boy, here we go. But it actually, they did a good job. And it's not based on an 80s movie. It's based on a 70s movie. Vince, you'll probably know this. TJ, well, you're the 80s guy, but let's see if let's see how much you know about the 70s. Have you ever seen the movie Death Wish with Charles Bronson?
Oh, dude, I have that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Perfect. Okay. To me, that is one of the quintessential 70s films. Okay. Well, they remade it obviously with Bruce Willis.
Right.
And he, he's kind of soy in it. He starts off kind of, emasculated and kind of femmy and but he evolves into kind of a badass. And number two, they actually made it with current times in mind. They didn't try to remake the 70s.
Right.
And so when I saw that one, I was kind of like, that one wasn't too bad. I was impressed with that one because I was expecting a turd.
When did that remake come out?
Last year before. So 17, 18.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
Check that one out then.
Yeah, it's actually pretty decent. Charles Bronson was an architect. Bruce Willis is a doctor. He's like an emergency room doctor or something like that. So he's not playing the architect role. He's not the kind of stoic, nothing really phases him that Charles Bronson was. Charles Bronson only had one face, and that his happy face, his angry face, and his sad face all look the same. Yeah. Okay. No, Bruce Willis was a lot more animated. Like I said, he started off very, very modern man, let the police handle this. I don't own a gun, blah, blah, blah. All the shit that I'm sitting there rolling my eyes wanting to puke a little bit. But then shit happens. I'm not going to give it away if you guys actually want to watch it.
Yeah,
but
I'll check it out.
Big surprise, shit happens. And, and he does.
He rises to the occasion.
No, he does what a guy today actually would. He's like, you know what? Let the police handle this. Well, the police didn't handle it. And that's when he got pissed off. And that's when he decided, well, fuck it. I'm going to handle it. And it's believable because you kind of watch him evolve from, let the police handle it. I trust in the system. He doesn't just walk into the phone booth and come out with a cape on and he's blazing guns like he's the Punisher. Okay. You watch him try to figure out, how am I going to get a gun? Because he knows he can't just go to the gun store and buy one because it's going to be registered in his name. So right. you see how he gets a gun. And, he's not an arch criminal. It's not like all of a sudden he learned how to go to the black market and buy a gun off the street. It's a believable scenario that, oh, fuck, that's how he got his gun. Okay, yeah, I could see that happening. And then you watch him, he practices with the son of a bitch. He learns how to shoot. And you even see where he ain't that good of a shot. That when he starts out, he's not a marksman. He's not picking guys off at 50 yards one-handed like Dirty Harry. He's figuring it out as he goes along, and he makes a lot of mistakes where it's like, oh, dude, that one's going to catch up to you. He gets in over his head with the bad guys, and it's like, oh shit, yeah, I could see that happening in real life. And so it made for, in my opinion, it actually made for a good remake.
Well,
so check it out.
Well, it was funny in the 70s film. One, I have a book by a Hollywood scriptwriter who's looking at different films, and he completely missed the point of Death Wish. Because he interpreted it as a film where certain people just need to be killed, whereas well, no, but no. The point of the film was that if government doesn't uphold justice, ultimately people have a right to take the law into their own hands.
Don't they?
Well, right.
You're not saying you're not convincing me that it should be about the system.
Getting into Punisher territory.
But the point of Death Wish is the message is if government doesn't uphold the law, sooner or later vigilantes will.
Exactly.
But it's an attack on the supposed monopoly government has on violence, because they believe that they are the only ones who have the right to go after criminals. And also, he claimed that he was stalking criminals. No, he was walking around and just making himself a target. He was always initiated against. The other thing that was interesting in that film is that he there's that scene where they've looked at the crime statistics in New York City, and they've realized that the muggings have dropped at not an exponential, but just basically
a significant rate.
60% muggings decrease. And they're saying, and the police chief is having a conversation with the police commissioner saying, and you don't want this to go public. And he goes, no, it has to not go public. This city would explode. Like, we just want you to get this guy, get him off the street and get him off the front page. And he goes, why? So the muggings can go back up?
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Here's another one that was great about that film, that if you watch it and you understand what's going on, his wife and daughter, or his wife's murdered. That to me was
raped and murdered.
Yeah, it was not necessary to be shown. They could have just been very 30s stylish, washed it over.
Yeah,
but
less is sometimes more.
The cops don't really do much about it. Nope. But then he starts shooting criminals, and suddenly half the department is going after him. Hey guys, I actually have to go now, but cool hanging out and chatting.
Yes, we'll see you next Wednesday.
All right. See ya.
Stay safe out there in the occupied zone.
They're knocking at his door.
Yep. See you guys.
See ya. Oh shit.
I know, right?
Oh,
yeah, he's got some other business in the occupied zone. I can't. Shh. So.
Yeah, we can't talk about that.
We cannot talk about that now. Now what are we gonna do? When I have to go take a piss, or just gonna be silence? It's gonna be crickets.
Well, we can, we've got some viewers watching in, and they're interacting with us. So, number one, we can say, okay, you guys out there in the chat that are watching, we're gonna go take a piss right now. So
occupy yourselves. Yeah,
entertain yourselves. Otherwise, if you need to go, and I can sit here and I'll talk to him. I know what I'll do. I'll be like, hey guys, here's your chance. Vince has left the room. What do you want to know? Yeah, exactly.
You want to? Well, I know yours is a little bit more involved than mine. I'm going to go off on my geek show and tell. Although it's not geek per se, but I guess it could be. I broke this out of storage. This was a gift from long ago. I never really wore a wristwatch. I always found them to be cumbersome. Everyone had one. It didn't really appeal to me, and not for anything. The old, especially the wind-up ones, on my wrist. I don't know, the electrical energy around my body or some shit would never, even if I put new batteries in or wind it up, it would never keep proper time. So I discarded that. But when I was my Holy Communion, when I was a kid, my parents bought me my first pocket watch, and then from then on, it was just nothing but pocket watches.
Nice.
Yeah, so I've always been a pocket watch fan, and I got away from them for a while. And I was thinking about it. I had penned an article on my own site a little while ago about holding time in your hands, and there's something something about a pocket watch that's always resonated with me, and actually holding time in your hands. It's elegant. It's classic, and in fact, the Levi's jeans, that little
that's for a
side pocket.
That's
actually for a pocket watch. So you could, you take the end here and you clip it onto one of your belt loops, and then you pop it in the pocket watch, and then you have that. So next time you're out and about and someone asks you for the time, or you're just standing there and you want to see the time, rather than grabbing your wrist. Or, obviously if you have a pocket watch, you're not going to have that, but rather than doing that, go out with your pocket watch. It's not for anything. It's a great conversation starter.
Well, no shit.
Yeah. Huh. So I would suggest trying out a pocket watch, and you can get cheap ones just to test run, give it a shot, and then you can upgrade later on.
That reminds me. Now, I didn't do this myself, but I had a friend. Yeah, I'm asking for a friend.
You have friends?
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's bullshit when my lips are moving. But, but anyway, when I was back in college, I knew this guy. His name was Ryan. Great guy. Still stay in touch with him. The dumb son of a bitch decided to move to fucking Illinois, Rockford, Illinois. Okay. He's out there in the wasteland now. Okay. You think Jersey and some of these other places or Washington's a shithole. Go to Illinois. That's a fucking wasteland, man.
Jeez.
Anyway, when we were in college, he decided he was trying on different facets of himself to try to kind of, find himself, figure out who he is type of thing. We all do it back in the day. We called it experimenting or whatever. Anyway, I remember he went through a phase where he decided he was going to take up smoking. Now, we're not talking pipes or cigars, but cigarettes.
Yeah.
But he had to do it. This guy, he always kind of had a flair for kind of the dramatic. This guy, instead of just going to the store and buying a pack of Marlboros or Camels or something, he decides, nope, I'm going to roll my own.
Oh, boy.
Okay. So he bought tobacco. And he bought the actual zigzag papers that, to me, anytime I ever saw zigzags, I just started thinking weed, because that's all the people I knew. That's all they ever used zigzags for. They didn't roll cigarettes out of them. They rolled their joints out of them. But I remember that was quite the conversation piece when we'd go to a bar and we'd be sitting around and he would decide, I want to smoke. But instead of, just pulling out his pack and whipping one out and lighting the bitch up, he would turn around and he'd bust out his kit.
He'd go through the ritual of.
Yeah. And so he'd be sitting there at the bar or at
drawing
a
crowd, no doubt.
Oh, fucking A. And the best thing was, because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, what in the fuck are you doing? Okay. And of course I'm half out of my mind drunk watching, but I realized not only did it draw a crowd, it drew a crowd of women.
Yeah.
They were absolutely fucking fascinated.
He's displaying his competence.
Yeah, because he's rolling himself a smoke and, and he puts it in his mouth and he's got that kind of that smirk as he's holding it, in the corner and looking at you and fucking lights it up. And next thing you know, the girls are literally like, can you roll one for me? And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? This is how you're getting in. So guys, I'm not your mom. I'm not the morality police. If you want to see how something works and if you figure, why not smoking? What the hell? Roll your own, dude. Seriously, the women will fucking die because they'll just be like, this doesn't even happen. And a pocket watch.
And a pocket watch. Do this with a pocket watch. And you're getting sleepy.
Yeah.
You can also hypnotize yourself.
No, stop that shit. So, yeah. But that reminds me of kind of where a pocket watch is kind of a days gone by type of thing. That's what, that if you decided to take up smoking, Vince, it'd be like, dude, you need to roll your own while you're looking at your pocket watch, man.
Well, if I'm out and about and the rare occasions that I have a cigar, when I'm sauntering around, I'll have my pocket watch and a cigar and it'll be,
and that works too.
Exactly.
That works.
But it's such a, no pun intended. It's such a timeless classic. It really doesn't go out of style. And I'm surprised guys aren't doing this more. I'm surprised I stopped doing it. So I think what's going to happen is I'm going to get a battery for this, and I'm going to start using this again. Because now it's so easy just to take out the phone, and then everybody does that.
Well,
then you're really
watch.
Exactly. You pull out a pocket watch and you're checking the time. You feel like you're in a Humphrey Bogart movie or something.
Well, yeah, I just feel like I stepped back into like the late 1800s, early 1900s. You pulled that out, and it's like, holy shit! What I say there, good fellow. Do you by chance have the time?
Exactly. Exactly. Go out, bust out my monocle.
Yeah. Hey, there you go.
That's monocle and a fucking pocket watch. Perfect.
No shit.
Now, you have something for Geek Show and Tell, and it happens to be a piece of literature, does it not?
Yes, it includes literature, and to use pun intended, been there, done that. got the T-shirt. Well, this is
the literal T-shirt. Yeah.
Well, it is. It's the T-shirt that came with the book.
Excuse me. Okay.
So let me grab the book. All right. So.
Oh yeah, that reminds me, and I always forget this. Planet Musk vlog has reminded us.
Hey guys, go ahead and hit the likes,
hit the like button, subscribe, and share, and also click the tap the little bell so you get a notification that helps us out. Yep. So spread the word, Masculine Geek.
Spread the word.
Do it, spread. All right.
You are getting sleepy. You want to hit the like button.
You will hit the like button.
I hope that shows up as the thumbnail.
I know, right? I'll find it and put it up there.
There you go. That would be the thumbnail to have. But anyway, yeah. So my show and tell is Jack Donovan's A More Complete Beast. Why is this special, Rob? Well, because it's a limited edition hardback. Before he ever released the audio version or the paperback version that you can buy on Amazon and all your other fine book retailers, he did a limited run of the hardback. And the price was actually extremely reasonable. It included the T-shirt.
Oh, okay.
And for fun, it also included this decal.
Okay, like Start the World one too.
Yeah, it's the skull with a third eye on it. And the part that I loved about it, boom.
Oh, nice. He put a little blurb in there nice. That's really cool.
He actually, this is signed by Jack Donovan, only victory.
And this is within the year, right? It was like
2018? This is last year, 2018, right? Okay. Close to the end. I actually got this book. It came in the mail on I don't know, September 3rd, I want to say, is when I got it.
Okay. That's recent then.
Oh, very recent. And it was funny
a quick
because
book, right?
It's a fantastic book. It's not long. It's a very thin book. It's very easy to read. It's very easily digestible, but it gets you thinking because it's kind of a synthesis of Jack's point of view of things and Friedrich Nietzsche.
Oh yeah.
He's Jack's. If you was always wondering if he was influenced by Nietzsche, this removes all doubt. Because he kind of takes, he kind of takes a lot of what Nietzsche says in a couple of his different books and kind of updates it to current time and brings it forward under his own thoughts of what it takes to be a more complete beast. So it's a fantastic read, guys. I highly recommend it. It is for lack of better words, it's the third installment in his series, if you want to call it that. It started off with The Way of Men, and then it went to Becoming a Barbarian, and this kind of rounds it out, A More Complete Beast. If you haven't picked them up, I highly recommend it. All three of them. If you really want to get a full understanding of what Jack talks about, you kind of need all three of them. And you ideally need to read them in order. So definitely, actually, here we go. The Way of Men, Becoming a Barbarian, which out of all three, this one's actually my favorite. And he also wrote a bunch of essays and speeches. This one's kind of a standalone, but it's great in and of itself. A Sky Without Eagles. Highly recommend it. Jack did not pay me to say any of this kind of stuff. I just am a kind of a big fan of his literature. He definitely understands what masculinity is, what it should be, and how it's pretty much the way it is, the way we are today. So highly recommend these 4 books.
Oh, you broke out the whole.
Yeah, I was telling our audience out there when you wandered off to beat off or do whatever it was you were doing.
I had to go touch myself. Yes.
Well, I figured we started talking about Jack and you had to go touch yourself. But I was just telling them, that A More Complete Beast is really kind of the third in the series, so to speak. And that if you really want to understand it and get it, you do need The Way of Men, and you need Becoming a Barbarian as well. And you do kind of need to read them in order. And I was just mentioning as well, when you came back after touching yourself, which was pretty quick, I'll give you credit. Okay, is the A Sky Without Eagles.
Jesus Christ. I don't think I have that. I have the other ones. And
yeah, this is good too. It's a standalone in the sense that you don't need it to appreciate, you don't need to have read the other ones to appreciate this one.
Gotcha.
I love it. It's just a bunch of essays that some of it, there is a few things in here that he said that he was originally going to put in The Way of Men, but he decided not to. So there is some stuff in here that, you're reading it and it's like, hey, this should be in The Way of Men. And it's like, yeah, that's probably the article that he was talking about. It's good stuff. I highly recommend it. And I was just telling the audience, this is not a paid endorsement from Jack Donovan. No. He didn't pay me to say this.
Not at all. I would also advise everyone, after reading the book, buy the audiobook, MP3 Audible. It's completely worth it. Jack does his own.
He does his own narration.
Yeah. It's pretty badass. Yeah, and that's actually, I have the Becoming a Barbarian. I have that on Audible. So
yeah, see, and I actually, I'm a lemming enough that I actually have all three copies, not only in hardback, paperback. I've got them in Audible and also in Kindle too.
Okay.
So I have the electronic version in case, whatever, if I'm with my Kindle instead of the books.
Yeah.
His literature is worth it.
Yeah, those books, his and Rollo's books, are definitely ones you want to have in your hand. There's something about, and this whatever book, there's something about having a book in your hand. I don't have one near me that I could actually, yeah.
Hey, I got these near me. How about this?
Well, yeah, wait, but when you're exactly. But what I mean is, as you're reading it, you see the progress. The left side of your left hand, the pages are racking up, and the right side is going. You can see the progress. You can smell the pages, the ink, and the smell of pulp, the paper, the ink, holding it, and that tactile experience of reading.
Any recommendations on economics? Yes. Aaron Clarey put out a book called Bachelor Pad Economics.
Oh yeah.
Highly recommend that. It's a great book. He kind of wrote it for. I mean, really, truly, it's for anyone. But when he kind of wrote it, he had younger single guys in mind. So the 20-something was probably his main focus. But it's applicable to anyone of any age, based on how you want to live. It's a great read. So if you want to know about economics, Bachelor Pad Economics.
I would also suggest anything by, and I think he has an Economics 101. And get this in Audible. For me, those kind of heavy topics I retain more if I listen. Thomas Sowell, Sowell. If anyone is familiar with him or they're not, check him out and pick up some of his stuff. They've heard his name, but you'll get a really good down to earth crash course in economics.
You read my coworker's article. Oh, you're talking about your coworkers aren't your friends? Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah, well.
Oh, is this new? I didn't see what's this? I see that in the chat.
Yeah, well, I wrote an article. Oh God, that article's 8-9 months old now.
Oh, okay.
And if you go to the article on my website, it starts off with a screenshot between me and my now ex-girlfriend. She got burned at work. Basically, they had instituted at her job a policy where you couldn't be using your phone, texting, and fucking around while you're supposed to be working. But everyone still kind of did it. It was one of those, pay lip service to it, wink, wink, nod, nod. Well, everything was fine until it wasn't. And she got burned. Someone, or maybe more than one person, turned her in. They ratted her out.
There's a rat somewhere.
Yes, and she got wrote up for it. She got in trouble for it, if I remember right. But she sent me this text that is what I use as the main picture in the article. That it's the conversation between me and her, because she was, fucking rats, and I was like, your coworkers aren't your friends. That was her first mistake. I've made the same mistake in the past. which is why, you know, I like my coworkers just fine. I wish no ill will on them, but I don't hang out with them. They're not my friends. And I kind of give the reader not only, you know, kind of my personal experience and the story of what happened to her a little bit, but I kind of give you kind of a crash course of this is what you need to be doing. This is what you not to need to be doing. You know, basically you say nothing to nobody about anything. You know, my coworkers, I've been doing the current job I'm in. I've been doing it for a couple of years now. And there are coworkers to this day that have no idea if I have kids or not. They have no idea if I'm married or not. They know practically nothing about me because I don't volunteer anything.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. It's like, you know what? If I wanted you to know, I'll tell you. And otherwise, I kind of smile and nod and do my fucking job. And because that's why I'm there. Just like I explained in this article that he's mentioned. And thanks for that, man. Thanks for the shout out. I appreciate it. It is, you're there to do a job. You're there to get paid. That's why you are there. You're not there to be pals. You're not there to fucking socialize. You are there to get paid. Keep that in the forefront of your mind at all times. You are here
do your job and go home.
Yeah, you're here to get a paycheck. You know, what you do on your own time is your own business. And in my own experience, in my own opinion, the further apart you can keep your work life and your work cohorts and all that from your personal life, the better off you are. You don't get any of the drama. You don't get the backbiting, the backstabbing, because corporate culture today not only condones it, they encourage it. You know, and I've talked about that before where, you know, it's kind of an offshoot of the Me Too thing where it is, hey, you know, you need to rat your coworkers out, even though it may not offend the person that's having the conversation. If it offended you, you need to say something, but not to the person that offended you. You need to say it to management. You need to be a rat. Okay, well, I grew up in a different era, I guess, where, you know what? No, I am not a rat, and I'm not here to police what other people say or do. I guess I have thicker skin, and I don't give a fuck. But I've gotten in trouble for not ratting people out, even though I witnessed something, and they're like, why didn't you say anything? Because it's none of my fucking business. That's why. You know, that's between them. If they got a problem with it, let them handle it.
Yeah,
but I've been the one to get in trouble because I didn't rat them out.
Yeah, well, you basically didn't want to engage in that 13th grade drama.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So, but appreciate it, man. I really appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, that one's definitely one of my older pieces. I almost forgot that one exists. Yeah, I almost forgot that one's out there. It's been so long.
All right,
you know,
cool.
There's a couple other ones that are a little bit older that for whatever fucking reason, and I don't know why, but they seem to have resonated because I'm still getting all kinds of hits on them to this day that it's like, really, that one? Huh, I had no idea why that one took off, but that one that he's mentioning, now that he mentions it, that actually is one of my, especially when I wrote it and for a couple of months after, that was actually one of my favorite ones that it's like, you know what? And yet, I mean, apparently it's still going places because he's reading it.
It's very relevant.
But that's it. It is relevant because most of my experiences that were negative, that involved HR and involved, you know, oh, you know, you need to rat people out or they're ratting me out for whatever, you know, everyone's snitching on each other. Most of my experiences was back like when I was in my 20s and early 30s, that it hasn't happened to me in a lot of years because I learned from it that it's like, oh, fuck, keep your head down.
Yeah.
You know, it's stay off the radar. You're here to do a job. You're here to collect your paycheck, and that's it. You're not here to be friends. And that's why I try to tell the people reading it. It's like, hey, guys, this is why there's so much bullshit going on. Is never mind feminism, which is a part of it, but it's the idea that, and I see it all the time when I go into jobs because I go in to collect their stuff and take it out, and so I'm the fly on the wall. And corporate culture today not only encourages the ratting and the backstabbing, but they also encourage that almost incestuous friendship. Oh, we want you to be friends. You know, you need to know about your coworkers. You know, you need to know about them. You need to know, you know, like when their birthday is and what their favorite color is. And I'm thinking, why? That's irrelevant. It doesn't fucking matter what my favorite color is. You know, I mean, even my job, they had a thing that they want me to fill out, which I still haven't filled out, that it's called In the Spotlight.
What?
How ominous is that?
That's that's a little incestuous.
Yeah, it is, because they're asking, you know, like, what's your favorite hobby? And you know, what do you like to do on your off time? You know, they're wanting to get to know me better.
Not to be paranoid, but to use that shit against you if they have some kind of grief with you.
Thank you.
Fuck that.
Okay?
No.
Yeah,
bullshit.
and that's it. You know, because fuck, here's one for you.
All right.
This actually happened here, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And talk about, in a way, not taking my own advice. So I go into my supervisor's office, and she's a nice gal. I'm talking to one of my coworkers that's also in the office. She's there at her desk, and he and I are dialoguing. And he said something. I don't remember the whole conversation now, but I said to him, I said, dude, you need to get your girlfriend in line. Okay. Because something about his girlfriend. Okay. What do you think happened?
Ooh, that didn't go over too well.
No. Who do you think got offended?
Probably everybody.
Funny thing is, the guy didn't. Okay. The guy that I said it to, it just rolled right off him.
Okay.
Number one, he's not a puss. The dude's he's ex-Marine.
All right, okay? He's pretty solid.
Oh, very, very solid. This guy gives me hope for some of the millennials. Okay, because he's a young guy, but man, it just rolled right off him like water off a duck. He didn't even bat an eyelash.
All right.
Okay, but it pissed off my boss. But the best part was, because she looked at me and she's like, "What?" And I said, "You heard me." You know, I realized
you stood by your statement.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I realized, I got to be very careful right now, because here's a woman who's being offended, and she actually has bona fide power. Okay. She does. She's my boss. She could write me up. She could probably get me suspended, maybe even fired. I don't know. But I thought about it, because I stood by it. I wasn't going to apologize, because for a lot of reasons. One, I stood by what I said. It's like, I'm not apologetic for what I said. I meant it.
Yeah.
Number two, it had nothing to do with her. It wasn't about her. It wasn't directed to her. It wasn't like I looked at her and said, you need to tell your husband to get you in line. Okay. No, it was, if anyone had a right to be offended, it was the guy that I was fucking giving shit to.
Yeah.
He's the only one that had a right to be offended, because I was dressing him down. I'm telling him, dude, you need to get your girl in line, man. All right. But my boss, who's, I'm not a feminist, fucking got offended. And I'm just like, oh man, here we go. And ever since then, it's been
a little tension.
No, it's not tense. I don't give a fuck.
No, on her part.
No. I wouldn't even call it tension. It's icy. It's just, because even like, yesterday, might've been yesterday. It could have been Friday. It's recent, a couple days ago. Anyway, I went in and I had to talk to her about something, and it kind of got off the business topic and kind of went, I wouldn't say personal, but it wasn't necessarily work related. And just the temperature in the room dropped, that I was like, oh,
pretty palpable.
It's like, she's still fucking pissed about this.
You're in her head rent free.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm sitting there thinking, okay, because a while back, one of my other bosses had found me. He found my newsletter, found me on Twitter, which is not hard to do. I advertise it. It's out there. And he signed up for my newsletter, which my newsletter, guys, you can go to robsays.net, click on the about page, and it's got all my links to my YouTube channel. Oh, I even created a YouTube page on my website that you can go to all my playlists. It's all there. Since we're, might as well plug since we're here.
Go ahead. Yeah.
But you can find my Twitter profile, my newsletter's in there. I write a lot of stuff that Some of it I put on my blog, but a lot of it, it's in my newsletter. You'll find things in the newsletter you won't find anywhere else. And I definitely cater to men. I do know I have a handful of women on my newsletter, and I've been very blunt with them that, you know, welcome. Anyone's welcome, but realize I write to men, and I'm writing for men about men, and I hold no apologies for what I say. And sometimes, yes, I'm going to say things that's going to offend feminine women, and it's going to offend feminist women. It's going to piss them off sometimes because I'm showing the ugly side of them, and it's my newsletter, my blog. I'm not pulling any punches. I'm not going to apologize. Fuck it. You don't like it? Unsubscribe. Walk away. Don't
there's a term. It's called pound sand.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, pound sand. You know, exactly. You know, or my term is eat shit. Okay. So that's it, you know. Well, like I said, one of my other supervisors signed up because I recognized his email address. It wasn't his work email address, but his name was involved. And I was like, oh, but he's a man. And I figure, okay, you know, I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna be me. I'm not gonna worry about censoring myself because I don't talk about work in general. I don't mention names. I don't get into specifics. You know, so fuck it. But the next thing I know, this woman supervisor starts following me on Twitter. Well, I went to her and I was like, is this going to be a problem? And she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I'm not going to censor myself. And I can get pretty hardcore on women. There's some things that, you know, that I call it out. I call it like it is. And if that offends you or that, you know, that somehow disturbs your sensibilities, you may want to unfollow me because I'm not going to censor myself. You know, I don't talk about work other than in very general terms. You know, I don't criticize work because I don't. The work's fine. The job's actually a good job. But it's like, this is how it is. You know, well, she followed me for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, and then she unfollowed me. And this was even before I went off on my coworker.
You warned her.
I did, you know, but, you know, she, of course, was, oh, yeah, you know, I can't stand feminists, you know, I can't stand people that are pussies. And it's like, but you couldn't stand the heat that I was putting out either, apparently, you know. So I guarantee you she sees me as a misogynist. I guarantee it. She does. It's practically telegraphing from her eyes. You know, that it's there, you know, especially when I was like, you need to get your woman in line. That pissed her off. It was great. It was great. And that's for the listening and watching audience out there. That's another thing. Okay. For Bo saying, or Butte, or however you pronounce your name, I'm sorry if I'm murdering it, where he mentioned my, your coworkers aren't your friends article. To take a page from Vox Day, who wrote SJWs Always Lie. Check it out. Get on Amazon, look it up. Vox Day, VOXDAY, SJWs Always Lie. And he also wrote a follow-up to it called SJWs Always Double Down. Both fantastic books. Again, not a paid endorsement. It's just something I've got. But check those out. They are the Bible for what to expect when the SJWs come after you, especially in a work situation. Because when I read them, it was like, holy shit, this happened to me 20 years ago, and he nailed it. Almost right down word for word. Okay, but one thing he says throughout that entire book, and I will agree with him on this, and so I'm going to give you a key point, guys, and that's this. Never apologize. Okay? They don't want an apology. An apology to them is ammunition. They will fucking hang you with your apology. So, you know, don't apologize, because that's what they will want. And then they will lord it over you, and they will flay you alive with it.
And we need to be we need to be clear here as well, because when you say never apologize, on the surface that sounds like, oh, that's a douche dick kind of, but that's not it. It's a little deeper than that. I mean, obviously, if you've committed a grievance, or there's a disparity, or there's something, you've done something wrong. Yeah,
if you've genuinely fucked up, you probably need to apologize. I hate to say we need to have a don't eat the paint warning, but apparently some people are so Asperger autistic binary about it that, oh, never apologize. That's what
once again, it's either
there is
this
a context.
or it's either this or that.
There is a context. Yeah. If you genuinely fucked up, then yeah. And you know you did, then yeah, you need to apologize. But when the SJWs are coming at you, you didn't fuck up. They just didn't like what you said.
Well, that's it. The whole thing with the apology hinges on their offense, not that you've done something or really said anything wrong. It's their interpretation and their subsequent offense. So now that you've offended them and they're hurt, then this is something that you now have to apologize for because you've offended or hurt them. Well, no, that's not how that works, particularly if it's mainly true.
Yep.
And that's the issue.
It will be used against you.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like, well, the whole, you get your Miranda rights from the cops when they go to arrest you and they tell you, everything you say can and will be used against you. This is no different, except you don't actually get a trial.
Well, you do, but you're already in the court of, you're tried in the court of popular opinion.
Yeah. And you're already convicted there.
Yeah. And that's the thing, that kind of thing, this transcends work, family, friends.
Oh yeah.
But your true friends will not do this to you, but you will have shit held over your head until the end of time.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. Especially
or until they find the next person to fucking hang.
Well, exactly.
And then you'll be forgotten within 30 seconds after that.
Yeah. Do you remember, 20 years ago, shut the fuck up.
Exactly.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Do you know what you sound like, asshole? What? Oh, woman. Shut the fuck up.
Pretty much. Unbelievable.
Well, because who holds on to grudges? Women.
Fundamentally, yeah. But there are some dudes that
they're pretty feminine dudes usually.
Well, that's true too. Yeah,
most of the guys I know that hold on to grudges are not very masculine men. More men either let the shit go or they go, dude, you want to go outside? We'll fucking settle this. We'll figure it out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes you back down because I'm gonna get killed. Other times, okay, let's go settle it the old school way.
Sometimes it needs to be done. Yeah, sometimes violence is the answer.
Yes, it is. People say that violence don't solve problems. They're wrong. No. Violence has been solving problems since the day we got walking upright and could pick up a piece of wood. If it didn't work, we wouldn't use it. Yeah. Now, I'm not advocating for it, but at the same time, violence, Jack Donovan said it, violence is golden.
Yeah.
Okay. And there is a time and a place for it. And you know what?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And back when I was younger, I used to get in fights with the neighborhood kids all the time. And usually after that, we dusted each other off, you dusted yourself off. You
became
put out your hand and you became friends.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. Hey, that reminds me. Did you want to talk about some of overcoming things that you'd mentioned to me? Did you want to talk about that tonight, or do you want to do that another time?
We'll do another time because that may take a little while. And we're already coming up on the 2-hour mark. That went by fast. But we'll
maybe we'll talk about it after the next episode.
Yes.
Because we've got a surprise coming for you guys. Something kind of big next week, the 6th. So we're talking next Wednesday, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. You guys definitely want to turn.
Special guest.
Yeah, we have a special guest. We're not going to say who.
Well, we will. I will post it soon because
that's going to be on you. I'm not going to spill the thunder. That's why I'm just hinting at it. But I am going to tell you guys, it's a big deal to me. And I've met some people out there that in the manosphere, in the red pill community, and this one's up there. Right. And so this guy, you're going to like it. You definitely need to tune in. You definitely need to come, set the notifications, subscribe to the channel, and come on next week and see who we're talking about. And
I'll give a hint. He is not. It's not a big secret, but it's not something that's popular broadcast. He is a comic book guy, so I want to get him talking about that a little bit.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I think more, not so much superhero comics, and I'm the same way. I was never into superhero comics. I kind of like the darker slice of life sort of.
Hey, you want darker slice of life? Read any of Clive Barker's graphic novels. That was the Hellraiser series.
Oh yeah, okay.
Those are good.
I heard about that.
Those are good. I have all those. I've got one actually. I bought it for $300. Clive Barker himself signed it.
Oh, that's a nice
collector's.
That's a nice investment. Shit.
Yeah, hell yeah. Because I mean, nothing, not hoping that Clive Barker hurries up and dies or anything. Because no, I want him to keep writing, but it's worth even more now as time has gone on. And when he dies, that son of a bitch is going to go through the roof, man.
I know, right? I have a few signed books of my own work, but you know what? My personal book and subsequent books, but I think mine are probably worth more unsigned. Probably.
You know what? I don't know about that, dude. I'm gonna have to buy yours. Where yours is on sale on Amazon, is it hardback too or paperback?
It's paperback. I think once I'm eventually finished with the series, and I'm almost done these edits, I'm hoping to push this second one out over the summer. But I have so many damn ideas, and you know what the problem is? It's funny. This is really a flaw of mine I need to work on. Even though probably should have worked on a long time ago. I love books. I love to read. I love learning. Also, a key point is putting things into action, not just reading. But I had to go out and buy another shelf to put all the books that I'm in progress of reading, and I almost filled it. And I had to say, you know what, I need to stop this. And I do that with my writing. I had the second novella finished and had gone to the editor and I got the edits back, and I'm finishing that up. That's almost done. But I have 3 other books chambered and almost ready to go that I'm still plugging away at, and it comes back to the other thing we talked about before, perfection. And you just want, and I still suffer. I still struggle with that. That's a big struggle. Even with reading, it's like I need to get this done. Let me go through this and get it out. Because I still have a few other.
You do. I mentioned to you before. I don't mean to cut you off there.
No, that's okay. Good.
You mentioned before, we've talked about some different things that you would like to finish up as time goes on. And I told you that I was going to ride your ass about one of them in particular.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to ride you. I'm going to ride your ass about your books, because I want to buy, if you decide to kind of put them all together, like in a collector's hardback edition, as an example.
Good. That and the artwork
wink,
as well.
Wink.
Yes.
Okay,
well,
perfect. Even better. I'm really going to ride your ass now, because I want to buy a copy of that, because I do want you to sign it.
Well, get the signed and unsigned and see which was worth more. But obviously the
signed one to me is going to be worth more to me, because I fucking know you. I don't give a shit what the guys on the chat channel think. I don't give a fuck.
That's true.
So now I'm going to ride your ass about your books too.
The other thing that Rob is mentioning is me finishing up my private pilot's license. I started that back in mid-90s. It was always something I wanted to do, and I was working at Sears in retail during college, and my supervisor, her husband was a commercial pilot, and he was looking to get into and becoming an instructor. So I was his first student, and because I knew him, he didn't charge me. So I didn't have to pay for instructor time. I just had to pay for the prop time of the plane. So that was affordable. And at the time, I was taste testing for a canola oil company called Intermountain Canola, a division of DuPont. And that put me through my flight training. So,
hey, while you're at it, do you want to tell the watchers out there the story you told me about him and his glasses and what you had to fucking do?
Oh, we'll save that for another. That'll be a long one, but yeah, it's you
guys watching. You got to write this down or screenshot it or whatever, so that if I forget to bring it up and Vince forgets, you got to remind him. He's got to tell you the story.
I'll give you.
He had to do some shit.
Yeah, I had to.
It was very early on. Early on.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah,
I had to essentially land the plane via instruction, and it was only my second. Yeah, it was.
Don't give the goddamn story away.
No, you want to know why? What the hell happened? Did the guy jump out?
Keep them in suspense. They'll come back because they want to know the story.
There's a couple people watching. You're in suspense. It is.
It's a great story. I nearly shit my pants when he told it to me. It was great.
Yep.
Okay. But here's the thing. Why do I have a stake in this, guys? Well, one, Vince is my brother. He's my friend. Okay. But number 2, I want to be able to say, you know what? I know a guy and he's a fucking pilot. and he can fly out and pick me up and we can go wherever. And I totally forgot that Vincent is an author. So I can actually throw that one around just as kind of like a name drop. Hey, do you know anyone? I know a guy. He's an author. He's published. You know,
yes.
no big deal. He's just an author. That's all. He's got books. And you can pick one up on Amazon at where on Amazon? Where can you get it, Vince?
Well, if you just type in Vincent J. La Rosa, you'll find my author page. But if I don't have I'll do that as my geek thing. I'll pimp myself out and show. I think I have a copy somewhere.
Well, I would hope you do.
Yeah,
it's your
called
fucking book.
It's called Tesla. It's Lightning's Call. Tesla and Malone. Lightning's Call Book 1, and it's essentially think of. Dennis Malone is an ex-Civil War cavalry sergeant, and he and Nikola Tesla team up in New York, late 1800s, and kind of think of them as the original Ghostbusters. It's a little bit of steampunk and cosmic horror. It's a quick read. You get it done in a couple hours if you're really motivated, or over a weekend. So,
well, there you have it, guys. Go pick that one up. Check it out. Support the author.
Absolutely, and leave a review. I mean, really, if you liked it, say that. If you didn't, say that and say why. An honest review is what we authors need. So, yes.
So you guys need to help me out and stay on Vince's ass too about finishing his books and his pilot's license.
Oh Christ, here we go.
Created a monster, Vince.
I know, right?
Yeah,
and that's the thing too.
I'm gonna recruit the audience here, man. I'm gonna get them
God, here we
shit
go.
on autopilot.
I'll never hear the end of it.
Never.
All right,
in fact, they're all going to jump on and be like, "So, you get your pilot's license yet?"
All right, here's what you need to do. Yet? All of you get together and then like parcel out your hey, did you do this? Hey, did you do this?
So, right. Time it about every 2.5 minutes.
Jesus.
You guys got any questions for us right now?
Yeah, there's a few.
We are starting to wind down. You got anything like how you were asking about books, music, whatever? You got questions for us? So if so, bring it up. We'll answer them. Not going to charge you any money or nothing.
No, we're trying to keep an eye on the chat here. There's 4 or 5 people in the chat.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's kind of.
So if you guys got questions about anything, we'll try to answer it if we can. If we have an answer, even if it's fuck if I know.
Yeah, or not, we can say, hey, we'll get that answer for you. But
yeah, come back next time. We'll have it for you next time if we have to do a little digging or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Type it up if you got a question. By all means, please ask.
And we were just talking about me with the flight school and writing and whatnot. That's part of what Masculine Geek is about. And not for anything. It's sort of becoming a Renaissance man, as it were. I mean, you want to go around calling yourself that, but you're involved. I'm a Renaissance man.
Who are you? I'm a Renaissance man. I'm the Masculine Geek.
Yes. I feel like you should have a pipe in your hand. You got to get one from TJ.
Oh no shit! Yeah, he needs to send me one. Yeah, that's another guy. Oh,
we do have several questions here. I'll get back to my what I was saying. So Butte is saying, when is the best time to fly under the radar, and when is the best time for the "don't fuck with me" attitude when picking your battles with woman, work, and family? That's the first question.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that may be.
When is the best time to fly under the radar? When it comes to work, all the time. Okay, if you value your job, you value your paycheck. That is the one area. Like I said in my article, you need to keep your head down. Okay. Now that doesn't mean you be a suck ass and eat shit, but it does mean keep your head down if you value your paycheck, because you pull a "don't fuck with me" attitude at work, you're going to be unemployed. So I wouldn't do it there. When it comes to "don't fuck with me" attitude with women and family, that one's kind of subjective. That
depends on the context.
Right. Pick your battles. If your family's going after something that you could give 2 shits about, what's the point in arguing with them? Sometimes it's better. Here's a good example. Me and my dad used to lock horns constantly when I was younger. And believe it or not, it was my mother of all people who came to me and said, "Are you tired of fighting with your dad?" And I'm like, "Fuck, I'll tell you what. Yeah." She goes, "Okay, so the next time when he comes to you and says, you need to do this and you need to do that, just agree with him. Just go, you know what, Dad, you're right.
Yeah, and that comes down to us wanting to be right and winning the
exactly.
Yeah.
Do you want to be happy or do you want to be right?
Yeah.
So the next time when my dad came down and was like, "Hey, you need to do blah blah blah," I was like, "You know what, Dad, you're right," and it stopped him dead in his tracks.
Yeah.
And he got pissed for a second because he thought I was mocking him. He thought I was like being sarcastic, and he's like, "What?" And I was like, "No, you're right."
Yeah.
I was legit. I was like, "You're right." But you know what? Fight was over right there. Done.
Oh, absolutely. That's called the disarming technique.
There you have it.
Yep.
So pick your battles. With your woman, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? You need to learn, if you haven't already figured out, there's going to be times when the fight's legit and there's going to be times when it's a shit test. And when it's a shit test, you do agree and amplify. You do amused mastery. You look at her like she's the 4-year-old and go, really, that's cute. You know?
Usually the shit test is something like you look over, you're like, what the fuck?
Where the fuck did that come from?
Where did that come from? What does that have to fucking do with anything? And why are you even bringing that up?
Yeah,
that's the logical side of you. But then it's also important to hold your ground.
Yeah,
do what you just said.
Yeah, don't capitulate.
No.
But then that's when it's the amused mastery, or
you're not being.
Were you looking at that other girl? You're damn right, baby. I was looking at that girl. Check out these guns. She couldn't get enough, and then your girlfriend starts laughing because you're being ludicrous about it, but you're still holding frame.
Yeah, you're agreeing and amplifying to the point of where it's funny now. Not that you're mocking yourself, but you have that playfulness about you, and you're not being a dick.
Yeah. And so that way you still have frame, but you're not backing down on her either, and you pass the shit test.
Exactly.
Who's a guest that you'd like to have on the podcast? Perhaps someone in particular? Oh, dude, we've been talking about this.
Yeah.
Well, I'll throw a couple out there that I would like to see. And it's funny, Aaron had one of them on like yesterday, day before.
He did, yeah.
He had Rollo Tomasi on.
Yeah.
Okay, I would love to have Rollo Tomasi come on the show. I would love to have Ed Lattimore come on the show. I'd love to have Ryan Stone come on the show. I would love to have Richard Cooper come on the show, but the point is, would they want to come on the show? When it comes to it, that's the ones that immediately pop into my head. Those are the guys that I'm thinking right off the bat, at least for me.
Yeah. I'd love to talk chess with Ed. That'd be great.
That would be great. And it is definitely a geek hobby type of thing. I know he could teach me moves because I have a rudimentary understanding of chess. I can play it. I know, the knight moves in an L shape and the queen can pretty much do whatever the fuck she wants.
Shape.
Well, that's what I call it,
Right. We're playing when you come out in September, and then TJ and I can kick your ass.
Well, exactly, because you probably would. But you know what? We'll go and shoot guns and see what happens then too.
That's true. Well, not too bad with the Civil War.
Well, 15 years of packing a gun, buddy.
I completely concede to that one. Yeah. No, you'd be a mentor for me with guns, so that'd be cool.
Oh yeah, guns are fun. That's my geeky hobby, if you want to call it a geeky hobby. But who else would you think would be a good guest, or who would you want to have besides the ones that I've named?
Well, definitely all those. That's a good question. I like to get some commercially geeky people on, like from the Dungeons and Dragons realm, or maybe an author.
Oh God, that'd be good. Yeah.
And we have some connections via Legends of Tabletop, the gaming website that John and I do, legendsoftabletop.com. Oh, and also a quick commercial. Many of the viewers have already seen this. You now need to taste this. You want to wake up to this. This is Legends of Tabletop Legendary Brew. Legends 10 code will give you 10% off, and there's always free shipping. This coffee is excellent. The packaging is beautiful. It seals up, holds the freshness in. You got the little right in there, whole bean. I suggest whole bean and grind your own. Oh, fuck, this is delicious.
Dude.
I was drinking that earlier.
Well, yeah, what was that it said on your coffee mug?
Oh, it says fucking coffee.
Where the hell did you get that? I want one of those.
That was a gift. There's a little shop in Philadelphia, in Old City. that handcrafts them.
Nice.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's another guy. Donovan.
Oh, Donovan. Yeah, he's right. He's across the water here. He hasn't talked about it lately, but he bowl. He does. He's on a. I think last time he was on a bowling league.
Okay, and that's kind of a geeky hobby in its own right.
That's a little geeky, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. That's probably one sport, I guess if you want to call it that. Well, you know,
sportish.
Yeah, okay, but that is one extracurricular activity, sportish thing that granted, I'm probably no Donovan, that he'd probably kick my ass at it, because if he's in a league or something, he's obviously got to be somewhat good.
Yeah,
but that is one that I kind of had a knack for. Oh, okay. And that was something that I enjoyed when I was a kid, and even up through my college years and whatnot, was bowling. I actually got a kick out of it.
Oh yeah,
you know, because you started learning, you know, how to put English on it or whatever. Well, that's billiards, but you know, put the spin on it and all that kind of shit.
You get a feel for how the follow through when you release the ball, how much it curves out and whatnot.
Plus,
and
there's beer.
Start to aim it. There's beer, and, you know, pizza, and you can, you know, ingest some cholesterol and drink some alcohol if you wish.
Harden your arteries a little bit.
Yeah. And it's really cool when they have the lights out, they play the music really loud, and they get that special colored pin. It's usually red, and if you hit that, you get a prize or some shit like that.
Oh, they had out here, they had what they called midnight bowling. Where they turn the lights off.
That's like
and it would have the black lights are on, and the little
disco
stars.
ball.
The fucking disco ball.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's not just a Utah thing. Apparently, that's a big
that transcends the entire union. Yeah,
Jesus. And here I thought that was just something that us dipshits out here did, but
no, there's dipshits everywhere that do that. We love it.
Well, yes, there are dipshits everywhere. That's no doubt. That's why I write what I do, is to let the guys that are not dipshits know that you're not the only one that's not a dipshit. You know, exactly. And yes, your coworkers are dipshits. Hey, that's my next article. Your coworkers aren't your friends. Now I'm going to go, your coworkers are dipshits. You know, that'll be the next article. So, did I lose Vince? Oh, there he is. Yeah, you're back. You froze up there.
That happens every now and then. My internet freezes.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was a little weird, because you kind of looked like you were having like this mid-seizure thing going on or something for a second there.
God.
Yeah, no shit. But yeah, that'll be my next article, is your coworkers are dipshits. And that's how you guys need to view it too. That's why they're not your friends, because they're dipshits.
Here's another question. Yeah, here's another question. What was one of your most geekiest moments that you can remember from each other's lives? I've had so many. It's hard to picture just one.
Oh, Jesus, no kidding.
Yeah. I have one.
Okay.
It's an interesting one. I was big into chess along with Dungeons and Dragons, but we didn't really play Dungeons and Dragons in high school. We played a lot of chess at lunch. And I had a wide variety of friends that were involved in this. And we would sit down and play during the hour or so that we had. And I think, Rob, you're first.
You back?
Son of a bitch. Let me get this out before the whole thing blows up.
No shit. Goddamn East Coast bullshit.
I know, seriously. Talk about dipshittery. So we're chess. We're we're at the end of the table, close to the lunch line. And I say that because it's important. What? Oh, it keeps. Oh no, you're good. It just for a moment it just looked like I had frozen up again. Okay, so we're playing chess, and off in the crowded lunchroom, a fight starts, and then the ensuing food fight happens. So my friend Mark and I are like, we're not getting hit with a loaded milk or anything. We're going to go run into the lunch line area and just kind of take cover. And my two friends continue to play chess There's shit and food flying all around them, and they just completely ignore it. And how they didn't get hit with a loaded milk or a cheese sandwich is beyond me. They were just completely immersed in this geek moment, and they were focused, and they were doing the move, and they're completely oblivious. Meanwhile, this food fight's going on around them.
Oh, that's awesome. Fuck it, we're playing chess.
We don't care. There was 0 fucks to give. We're gonna take our chances.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I could top that story, but one of the geekiest ones I have was at a job. And again, this is going back at least 20 years. And for all you guys sitting in the chat room and watching and listening, you got to understand something about me. I'm gonna give you a little piece of me here, and that is the whole world. My life is a fucking soundtrack. Okay, so we're talking about shit. You guys are asking your questions. Life goes on, and meanwhile, it's like a movie to me, and I have to have a soundtrack. So songs pop up in my head. Okay. And it sometimes they slip out where I'll just burst into song. And that's what happened one day at work is, we're sitting there and I remember it because the women thought I was fucking nuts.
Would you bust out My Fair Lady or some shit?
No, oh no, nothing that cool. No. But anytime, like I said, my life is a soundtrack. So you could say something and I will find a song in my head within a few seconds, usually, that relates to whatever it was you said. And this song will play in my head. And sometimes I think it's in my head, but it's in fact coming out of my mouth.
Oh, shit.
And I'm not saying it, I'm singing it. Okay. And so these girls were talking about something, and one of them had said, oh God, there's, I'm sick, there's this sickness going around. And immediately my brain went to Disturbed, Down with the Sickness.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, wow. And I just start going off, it's like Down with the Sickness. And they're just like, they looked at me and they're like, oh my God.
That is a good geeky moment.
Yeah. And I was like, what? And they're like, did you just actually do that? I'm like, oh, you have no idea, guys. My whole fucking life is a soundtrack.
That was your outside voice. Yes.
Yeah, it was. And that's what they kind of said. I was like, oh, did that shit come out? Oh yeah. You guys all heard that. That didn't stay in my head. And I do that shit all the time. Kind of like how earlier we were talking about the 80s and talking about, you can't do this now and you can't say that and blah, blah, blah. We already went through it. If you guys missed it, watch the replay. But when I mentioned to you about Winger and about the song 17.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Did you have an occasion to sing that one?
Oh, well, I sang it to you guys. And that's what I mean. Gotcha. Well, back in the day, I used to sing it all the time. And there'd be times that, me and a friend would be out. And if it happened now, I'm sure my friends would understand because they know me. It's like, dude, you're like this idiot savant with music or something. But the snowflakes of today, if I started singing 17, would lose their fucking minds.
Probably.
They'd be like, pedophile. Because, daddy says she's too young, but she's old enough for me, and it's like, do you believe that? Oh my God, you're a fucking pedophile. And it's like, it's a song.
Yeah.
Get over it. Back in the day, nobody batted an eyelash.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to the whole people taking things too seriously and also
way too seriously,
being very, very literal and not being able to think abstractly with certain concepts.
That's that whole binary thing, zeros and ones. That's why we have to tell everybody, just to cover our own asses and to cover yours, don't do stupid shit. Don't eat paint. It's like, guys, use common sense, use your thinking. I like to think based on the questions we've had and the comments we've had that we have a higher caliber audience. That I would like to think that we don't need to give the don't eat paint warning to these guys. They get it.
No,
these assholes understand this shit. They don't need to worry about it. They're geeks themselves.
Exactly.
They're a higher caliber of being.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
Thank you guys. You know,
yes, thank you for the questions and joining us. We really do appreciate your support. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and hit the little bell button so you get the notification.
Right, especially for next week because it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and leave comments if you like the show. Say what you like about the show. If you don't like the show, say what you don't like about the show. Maybe there's something.
That Rob swears too much. He's an asshole.
We're totally gonna get deplatformed because you keep fucking cursing.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the idea?
Yeah, well, it's be yourself and
exactly. I'm just letting my hair hang down. Oh wait, I don't have it.
Well, it's all tucked up inside.
Yeah, it's up in my bun, my man bun.
Oh God, don't even get me started with that shit.
Hey, there's a topic for next time: man buns and why you shouldn't have them.
Well, no, unless you are a legitimate samurai.
Well, then you can have one. If you are a student of the martial arts and they call you samurai.
Yes, or you're working in the food industry and you have long hair. I would appreciate you not getting your dandruff in my food and you have it. Or yeah, exactly. So.
Or your hair, let alone your flake.
Exactly, those two things. So on that note,
man buns. Let's not have those.
We'll add that. Yeah, we'll add that to another discussion. However,
man buns and why you shouldn't have them.
Exactly. So we are a little over the 2-hour mark, so we're going to sign off for this evening. But I want everyone to enjoy the rest of the week. Have a great weekend, a great geek weekend, and get ready for next Wednesday. That will be who we're going to have on will be posted very soon. But get ready and set your reminder. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave comments. Please leave comments. And we will talk to you next Wednesday.
See you guys.